I sat across from CEO Camille Hawthorne, the glass conference table between us reflecting the sterile lights of the office. Her words hit like a punch. We need commitment, not sympathy. I, Lucas Reed, 35 years old, adjusted my worn suit, the one with frayed shoulders from too many interviews, and tried to keep my face neutral. This was my last shot this month, the final barrier, before my savings vanished completely. Outside the glass walls, my daughter Sophie, just 7, sat quietly in the waiting area with her 3 colored pencils and a blank sheet of paper. She didn't know each of these meetings was a bet on our next meal, our rent, our everything. Camille scanned my resume, top of my class at Georgia Tech in computer systems, 3 patents in cybersecurity-led crisis teams for commercial AI. But then the gap, 18 months, blank. You were impressive once, she said, her voice cool and measured. But 18 months in tech is an eternity. Innovation doesn't pause. I'd rehearsed this. My wife died from ovarian cancer. I took time to care for her until the end. And then, for my daughter, no flicker in her eyes. I'm sorry, but this role demands availability. Systems crash at 3 a.m. Weekends vanish for clients. As the single dad who handles your child, then I glanced through the glass. Sophie picked up a fallen pencil alone. No one noticed. I have reliable neighbors, solid backups. I've planned for it, she shook her head. Plans aren't commitment. Good intentions don't keep our networks running. I knew it then. I'd been dismissed. Not for my skills, but for being a dad. For loving Sophie more than any job. I stepped out of the glass-walled room, the weight of Camille's words pressing down like an invisible ceiling. The hallway blurred as I walked, my mind replaying her clinical dismissal. Not for my skills, but for the simple fact that I had a daughter who needed me. Sophie looked up from her spot in the waiting area, her pencils scattered like forgotten dreams. She didn't say a word at first, just stood and slipped her hand into mine, her small grip a lifeline in the storm. "It's okay, Daddy," she murmured as we headed to the elevator. "We'll find something else." Her voice, so innocent and resilient, cracked something inside me. I wanted to scoop her up, tell her everything would be fine, but the truth choked in my throat. We rode down in silence, the hum of the building fading behind us like a bad memory. Outside, the Atlanta heat wrapped around us, sticky and unforgiving. I buckled Sophie into her booster seat, her drawing a stick figure family under a rainbow clutched in her lap. As I started the car, she asked quietly, "Daddy, if you didn't have me, would you get the job?" The question hit like a freight train. I pulled over, the engine idling as I turned to face her. Kneeling awkwardly in the front seat, I met her wide eyes. "No, Sophie. You're never the reason I get turned down. You're the reason I keep trying." She nodded, but I saw the doubt flicker. That night, after a simple dinner of pasta and canned sauce, I tucked her in with her favorite story about a knight who protected his kingdom, no matter the odds. As she drifted off, I lingered in the doorway, watching her chest rise and fall. 18 months since Emily's death, and every day felt like a battle to keep our little world from crumbling. I retreated to the kitchen, scrubbing dishes under the dim light, my mind racing through job listings I'd already exhausted. The savings account blinked mockingly on my phone, enough for another month, maybe 2 if I stretched. Then what? Food stamps. Moving in with my sister. The thoughts swirled like dirty water down the drain. The phone buzzed, startling me. Camille Hawthorne's name flashed on the screen. I stared for a moment, debating whether to let it go to voicemail. Curiosity won. I answered. "Mr. Reed." Her voice came through, lacking the earlier frost. I'm calling because I was wrong. I leaned against the counter, silent, letting her fill the void. I didn't dig deep enough. I didn't know you authored the patch for the Prometheus breach 9 years ago. My breath caught. Prometheus, a massive vulnerability that nearly toppled national data grids. I'd fixed it quietly, my name buried in classified reports to avoid drawing hackers' attention. My senior engineer mentioned it this morning, she continued. You saved an entire sector, but because of your personal circumstances, the industry moved on without you, and yesterday I almost perpetuated that oversight. She paused, and I heard a rare hesitation. I filed a report with the hiring board acknowledging my bias against you as a single parent. If you choose not to return, it'll stand as an official apology on record. The words hung there. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tell her apologies didn't pay bills. But another part, the exhausted, hopeful one, listened. However, she added, if you're willing, I'd like to extend the offer again. Not out of pity, but because we need someone like you. Why the change of heart? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt, a sigh on her end. Because I reviewed my own policies today. We claim to value innovation, yet we overlook innovators who've lived through real crises. Your experience isn't a gap, it's an asset. I glanced at Sophie's door cracked open with her nightlight glowing softly. If I accept, it's with conditions. Family first, no questions. Agreed, she said without hesitation. Take the night. Let me know tomorrow. I ended the call, the kitchen suddenly feeling less oppressive. For the first time in months, sleep came easy, not from certainty, but from the sliver of possibility she'd offered. The next morning over breakfast, I told Sophie about the call. Her face lit up. Does that mean you win, Daddy? Maybe, I said, smiling genuinely, but win or lose, we're a team. As I dialed Camille back, accepting the role, I felt the shift. That wasn't just a job, it was a chance to prove that being a single dad wasn't a weakness. It was my strength. Little did I know that strength would soon be tested in ways that would reshape the entire company. 3 days after hanging up with Camille, I walked back into Hawthorne Dynamics feeling the cool rush of the air conditioning hit my face like a fresh start. No fancy suit this time, just comfortable jeans and a shirt that didn't scream desperation. Camille met me in the lobby, her handshake firm but warmer than before. Welcome aboard, Lucas, she said. Let's dive in. She escorted me to a sleek conference room where a team of engineers sat, screens flickering with lines of code. Their eyes flicked over me with a mix of curiosity and doubt as Camille introduced me as the new consultant for the Athena project, an AI system poised to revolutionize financial analytics. I caught the subtle glances. I was the outsider, the single dad who'd been rejected and somehow clawed his way back. Walk me through the architecture, I said, pulling up a chair without waiting for pleasantries. For hours, I immersed myself in diagrams, data flows, and repositories. The setup was ambitious, a neural network predicting market shifts with razor-sharp precision. But as I traced the pathways, issues emerged: inefficient partitioning, potential breach points, lurking like shadows. This isn't just about speed, I pointed out in our first team huddle. Your classification algo has a vulnerability to anomalous spikes. In a live scenario, it'd cascade into chaos. A young engineer named Alex leaned back, arms crossed. We've simulated it extensively. It's robust. Sims are sterile, I countered. Real crises aren't. I've watched systems like this implode because no one factored in the unpredictable, like a frantic input at odd hours. Camille observed from the sidelines, silent. By midday, the room split. Some dismissed me as relics from the past, others started leaning in. That afternoon, I proposed a mock drill. "Simulate a breach," I instructed. "Show me your response." Keyboards clattered as they enacted a failure. But their fixes were patchwork, overly dependent on auto repairs that could loop indefinitely. "Halt," I interjected. "Isolate non-essentials first, quarantine the core manually." Alex shot me a look. "That's archaic. Our AI self-corrects." "And if it doesn't," I pressed, "trust me, I've lost data betting on machines over gut instinct." The tension thickened, but Camille finally chimed in. "Lucas has battle scars. Hear him out." We tweaked a module by evening. Nothing revolutionary, but it boosted efficiency by 15%. As the team dispersed, Alex hung back. "Fine, that worked. Where'd you pick up that isolation method?" "From failing spectacularly," I replied, "and from nights when failure meant letting down my daughter." He nodded thoughtfully, and for the first time I sensed a crack in the skepticism. The following week blurred into a rhythm of reviews and refinements. Whispers spread through the halls the rejected dad was spotting flaws others missed. Engineers from adjacent teams dropped by, probing for insights not just technical but life ones. I shared tales from my hiatus, how nursing Emily honed my debugging patience, how Sophie's curiosity refined my approaches. One late evening, as I fine-tuned a protocol, Camille appeared at the door. "Pulling overtime. Necessary, Charles," I said. "Sophie's with a trusted sitter." She took a seat. "Tell me more about her, your wife." I opened up about the diagnosis, the endless treatments, the quiet farewell. Camille listened, her gaze distant. "My dad was a single parent too," she confessed. "Built his first venture while raising me. I'd forgotten what that grit looks like." We conversed until the custodians arrived, the office emptying around us. By the time I headed home, a subtle alliance had formed, not boss and employee, but two people recognizing shared humanity. The true trial hit 2 weeks in. An alert blared during a routine check. A demo for key investors froze midstream, data halting like a choked engine. Panic erupted in the control room. "Reboot everything," someone barked. "No," I snapped, stepping forward. "It's a feedback loop, manual isolation now." They hesitated, but complied under Camille's nod. Minutes ticked by as I guided the purge, then relief streams resumed the demo seamless. It clinched a $20 million infusion. Camille cornered me post-crisis. "You didn't just salvage the presentation, you preserved our credibility." "It's what I do," I said simply. "Safeguard what's vital." From then on, the company's vibe shifted. Hawthorne Dynamics transformed from a cutthroat tech hub into a place where expertise met empathy, one fixed line at a time. The promotion came faster than I expected, director of auxiliary tech overseeing crisis response for all systems. It wasn't a corner office title, but it meant leading drills, shaping protocols, and having a real say in how the company handled failures. When Camille broke the news in her office, I nodded, but inside I braced for the backlash. Sure enough, murmurs from the board trickled down. "He's barely been here a month," one exec grumbled in a leaked email thread. "We can't hand over reins based on one lucky fix. What if his family-first mantra tanks a deadline?" I didn't fight it directly. Instead, I asked Camille for a company-wide internal presentation. "Let me earn it," I said. "Not with resumes, but with what I've learned." So she agreed without hesitation, scheduling it for the following week in the main auditorium. No fanfare, just an email invite titled Crisis Management in AI Lessons from the Front Lines. The day arrived, and I stood backstage, heart pounding. Sophie was at school, but I texted her a photo of the stage. "Wish me luck, kiddo." Her reply, a thumbs-up emoji, calmed me more than any pep talk. I walked out in my usual button-down, no slides, no polished deck. Just me, a mic, and the truth. The room was packed, engineers in hoodies, execs in suits, even the interns crammed in the back. "I'm not here to claim superiority," I began, my voice steady despite the nerves. "I'm here to share what a so-called gap in my resume really means." I dove into the technical, first dissecting Athena's vulnerabilities, explaining how manual overrides could prevent AI overconfidence. Nods rippled through the tech crowd. Then I shifted. "But tech isn't just code, it's people. Let me tell you about a day when a system I built nearly crashed an entire hospital network. Alarms blared, data corrupted in real time. I didn't pull the plug fast enough because I was half asleep beside my daughter who was burning with fever." The auditorium went pin-drop silent. I could feel eyes widening, judgments pausing. I lost my job that week, lost my standing in the field, but I gained something irreplaceable, the understanding that every line of code affects lives. Systems need humans who know when to step in, who stay alert because they have stakes beyond stock options. I paused, scanning the faces. And sometimes that human is the single dad. No one wants to hire the one who's juggled chemo appointments with debugging sessions, who codes through grief because his kid needs dinner on the table. Questions flooded the Q&A. How do you balance it? What's your take on ethical AI? Even the skeptical board members leaned in. By the end, the vote was unanimous. My promotion went through effective immediately. The secretary who'd once ignored me in the lobby now greeted me with a respectful nod. Engineers who'd skirted my desk started emailing for advice, not just on algorithms, but on managing burnout as parents. I dove into the role headfirst, revamping training modules to include real-life scenarios, advocating for on-call rotations that respected family time. One policy I pushed back up childcare reimbursements passed after I shared how a single fever had nearly cost me a critical fix. Changes echoed beyond my team. Alex, the once doubting engineer, confided over coffee, "Your talk hit home. I was ready to quit for my kid's sake. Now I see it's doable here." Camille remained measured in public, but in private meetings she'd defer to me on human elements in tech. "Lucas gets the cost of shortcuts," she'd say, her tone carrying newfound respect. One afternoon, as I reviewed a new vulnerability report, she stopped by my office now with a window view I'd never imagined. "You've reframed the culture," she said. "People discuss balance like it's core strategy, not a perk." "It's collective effort," I replied. "You open the door," she smiled faintly. "No. You walk through it proving a single dad isn't a risk. He's an edge." Sophie reaped the benefits too. With steady pay, I signed her up for art classes. Her drawings evolved from simple families to intricate circuits inspired by my work stories. During those quiet evenings, as she sketched beside me, I realized Hawthorne wasn't just a job anymore. It was a place where my past, once a scar, became a strength, forcing everyone to reconsider what true commitment looked like. The buzz of the Seattle Tech Conference felt like electricity in the air, a far cry from the quiet desperation of my job hunts just months ago. I'd been invited to speak on Athena's revival, the AI project I'd helped pull from the brink. Camille had pushed for it, calling my journey the human side of innovation. I agreed, but only if Sophie could come along. It was her first big trip, and as we boarded the plane, her excitement was contagious. "Are we going to the moon, Daddy?" she asked, peering out the window at the clouds. "Close enough," I laughed, holding her hand. "To a place where ideas fly." The convention center was a whirlwind booths showcasing cutting-edge gadgets, panels debating the future of AI. My slot was in a mid-sized hall-capacity 500 scheduled for the afternoon. Nerves gnawed at me backstage, but Sophie's text from the audience, a photo of her with a conference badge and a thumbs up, steadied my resolve. Camille took the podium first, her voice commanding the room. "Innovation isn't just algorithms, it's resilience." Please welcome Lucas Reed, the man who reminded us that the best tech comes from those who've lived through the glitches of life. Applause thundered as I stepped up the spotlight, blinding for a moment. I scanned the crowd. Developers in hoodies, executives in suits, all eyes on me. "Thank you," I began, my voice echoing slightly. "I'm not here to wow you with buzzwords. I'm here to share what turning a no into a yes taught me and how it can reshape our field." I walked them through Athena's turnaround, the vulnerabilities I'd spotted, the manual interventions that saved it from collapse. Heads nodded. Notes were scribbled. "But let's get real," I continued. "Tech doesn't exist in isolation. It's built by people with lives, losses, and loves. For me, that meant 18 months away caring for my dying wife, then raising my daughter alone. I was labeled a risk, a distraction, but that gap forged my edge, knowing when to trust code and when to override it with heart." The murmurs rippled. I shared the Prometheus story, how instinct averted disaster. Systems fail when we forget the human element, and sometimes that element is the single dad coding through tears because his kid needs stability. The energy shifted, skeptical faces softened. Then I paused. "But don't just hear it from me. Meet my co-pilot." I waved Sophie on stage. She hesitated, then walked out in her little dress, clutching a rolled-up drawing. The audience cooed as I knelt to her level. "This is Sophie," I said. "She's the reason I fight. Sophie, tell them what you think Daddy does." She looked out, voice tiny but clear. "Daddy fixes broken things, like computers, and sometimes hearts." Laughter bubbled. Then applause exploded. The crowd rose cheering as Sophie unrolled her drawing, a colorful mix of circuits and family stick figures. "This is us," she added shyly. "Team Reed." Tears pricked my eyes as I hugged her. The ovation lasted minutes, tech titans wiping their faces, young devs clapping wildly. Backstage offers poured in, consulting roles, partnerships. But I turned most down. Hawthorne was home now, where Camille had rolled out family-friendly policies inspired by my input. Flexible hours, on-site childcare, mental health days for caregivers. One evening after the conference, glow-faded Sophie and I sat on our porch back in Atlanta. She sketched while I sipped coffee. "I'm proud of you, Daddy," she said. "You showed them single dads are superheroes." "And you're my sidekick," I replied, pulling her close. That moment in Seattle wasn't just a talk, it was validation. I'd turned rejection into revolution, proving that fatherhood wasn't a flaw. It was fuel. And in doing so, I'd helped build a company and an industry that valued people as much as progress.